I'm here to share some details from my experience living with regular debilitating flare-ups of ankylosing spondylitis for 25 years. I'm doing this to create the casual first-person content that I was looking for myself when I was diagnosed, because it seems it doesn't really exist, or at least turn up very easily in searches. There are a lot of well-produced videos by medical organizations, but a lot less independent storytelling by somebody that created content on their own. My name is Sean, and we're currently at the tail end of 2023. I've just turned 40 years old. In October of 2022, I was diagnosed with AS, though my symptoms started when I was about 14 years old. I've had most of the groups of symptoms, but my main symptom is chronic pain in my sacroiliac joints. I can tell you about my interactions with the healthcare system, and I can tell you how I manage flare-ups, I believe, by inadvertently building my lifestyle around them. So, starting at age 14, I started having what I described at the time as intense hip pain, but was really more in my sacroiliac joints. And I know this now after my diagnosis. It has been a pain of an 8 or a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. It feels like I have tiny shards of broken glass in my joints, and any movement whatsoever can be unbearable. It can wake me in the middle of the night so badly that I'll need to crawl to the medicine cabinet to get ibuprofen. On average, over the years, I can get these flare-ups of pain every 3 to 6 months or so. Sometimes the pain will last just a few days, but there are instances where it could last 8 or more weeks. Though I can sort of predict it coming on or manage it somewhat once I do have it, I would always describe it as coming essentially with no real rhyme or reason. I do almost always have a baseline discomfort level of a 1 or a 2, like always. Also in my mid-20s, I had a flare-up of uveitis, which is an inflammation of the eyes, and eczema simultaneously. The uveitis wasn't really diagnosed that thoroughly or linked to any real condition, but was treated as a bad reaction to some contact lenses I had switched over to. I had pain so bad I couldn't open my eyes in the sunlight. I was treated with 2 types of steroid drops, which were fast acting and got the situation under control. The eczema was all over my neck and face and was treated with prescription creams. I've had some minor reoccurrences of the eczema, and I still treat that with the prescription creams. No real uveitis, but my eyes are just always kind of seem like they always have something going on. I've had 3 main interactions with the healthcare system, and those resulted in false diagnosis. The joint pain all started shortly after I took a fall off of a patio onto some uneven ground. I landed on my low back, and this is when I was around 14 years old. The first doctor I saw was over multiple trips with my pediatrician when I was in my teens after the fall, and this is when I was growing up in northern Minnesota. We were trying to figure out this intense pain and relating it back to this fall that I had had, and he diagnosed me as having bursitis in my hips. The immediate prescription for the pain was some light stretching and also ibuprofen. The long-term prescription was that I take cortisone shots directly into my hip joints. And this would come with the caveat that it would deteriorate my hips to the point of needing early hip replacements. And that was scary for a teenager to hear, obviously, and we ended up never doing one of those. After some years of self-management, I took a visit to a doctor in my mid-20s, and at this point I was living in Las Vegas. No real diagnosis was made. The doctor there said she wouldn't determine anything without some imaging, and honestly, I just never followed through. But what I would do was I would self-medicate. if not with just ibuprofen, but also with alcohol. Since I knew that movement helps, my goal would be to drink and lower my inhibitions regarding my pain, and I would just move through it. And it worked sometimes. You know, you go out and you're walking all over and horsing around while you're partying, and sometimes the pain would be gone the next day, but of course, nothing was ever fixed permanently. And some flares would be so bad that no amount of alcohol would help. Had a particularly bad flare in my mid-30s when I was living on the island of Maui in Hawaii. I saw my primary care physician, and she referred me to a physical therapist to be treated for, she diagnosed it as piriformis, I don't really know what that is anymore, and IT band syndrome. The physical therapist prescribed me some exercise during regular visits to the physical therapy location. They would give me like some chiropractic massage, walk me through my exercises, and finish me with something called a TENS unit. I might be getting that wrong, but it's those little pads. You can put them anywhere on your body, and they send electricity and kind of buzz your muscles. I really don't know how they work, but this round of treatment, seemed to cure me. It got me active again, and that level of being pain-free lasted about 1.5 years, actually, maybe almost 2 years. It was incredible. Part of it, the sustainability of that, I believe it had me focusing on my health overall, which was really helpful. Excuse me. The last interaction I had was regarding a flare that happened during the summer of 2022. I brought it up with my primary care physician here where I live now in San Francisco, and I was looking really just for more physical therapy referrals, not a new diagnosis of anything, and he ordered some imaging, which I've actually followed through with this time. And the interpretation was sacroiliitis and sclerosis of the SI joints, which I didn't really know what that meant at all. But he then, without explaining, ordered some blood work, looking for inflammation markers as well as the gene that we all know now, HLA-B27. The inflammation markers happened to come back negative, but the HLA-B27 came back positive, and thus I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis. So how did I go so long with such pain without being diagnosed? This is 25 years. I became active in my late teens by mostly riding a bike through town in my small hometown, and it felt inherently good to move my joints like that, and so it was just something I did. In college, which was culinary school for me, I started walking before class for 30 minutes, and that turned into some light jogging. When I moved to Vegas, I started running quite a bit more and got my first gym membership, and all that movement really helped. When I moved to Hawaii, I was introduced to a group of people that did a really intense fitness class every other month, and so I'd enroll in that. And at this point, I really became sort of a full-time runner. I also took some swim lessons, which gave me a low-impact exercise option when I wasn't feeling great. When I moved here to San Francisco, I was introduced to yoga, and that has been the absolute best thing for me. It truly keeps things loose when I do follow through daily, which isn't often enough. I've never felt worse after a yoga session, only better. And even if it's just a teeny tiny bit, I'll feel better if I do yoga in some way. As for other day-to-day movement, which has really been my main treatment. Aside from ibuprofen, the only other treatment that I have is physical activity as far as management goes. So in that regard, my career has kept me mobile all day, every day. I began working in kitchens basically right at the age of 16. And so as a career, that ends up coming with a 12-hour a day minimum, 5 if not 7 days a week. You're standing up, pivoting, bending over, lifting, tons of walking, and that really keeps me mobile all of the time. If I do push too hard, it can be detrimental. So balance is key. If I had to work some busy nights on certain stations, I could basically predict that I would be in pain the next day with accuracy. Though I will say, now that I know I have a condition and I know it starts in my SI joints for me, I am far more conscious with all of my movements. And I have found fairly good improvement in my daily discomfort as a result of that awareness. So I control my movements at work. I keep them balanced. If I have to, I back off for a few minutes, step back and think through the heavy work before I just try to power through it like I used to. I'm fortunate also that I have the option to use a desk that converts back and forth from sitting to standing. So if I must do office work and I feel like that's tensing me up, I can just raise the desk and be standing, and then I can loosen up while I do some of my admin work. So without going into a lot of detail of the individual flare-ups or the real specifics of the symptoms, that is really a broad picture of my overall experience living with undiagnosed ankylosing spondylitis for exactly 25 years. So when I received this diagnosis, it seemed that there really are a limited amount of resources or people to talk to or relate to. I've searched for online support, and there are various communities. One thing I have found is that for the level of success stories in managing this that are out there, there is also a really heavy level of despair. And I completely understand why. I can relate. Even as successful as my pain management can be, I've been stuck on the couch, asking, why am I in so much pain today? I literally can't even walk 2 blocks to the corner store to get more ibuprofen, let alone be happy and in a good mood. It's that painful. So I'm okay for anybody that watches this video, to feel free and direct message me about discussing, just having conversation about this condition and its effects. I'm totally more than happy to chat and communicate. And if there are any online communities or resources that someone is a part of, let me know. I'd love to check those out. I really haven't done much over the last year in regards to this. I was really fired up when I first got diagnosed, and then I've just kind of lived life for the last year. I'll make another video talking about going 1 year post-diagnosis and what I've done differently. It's mostly been successful, but then also managing the things that inevitably come back. But I'd love to check out online communities that are out there. It's so important to stay focused and keep physical health as a top priority during our day-to-day lives with AS. Because then this positively impacts our mental health, of course, pain management. I feel obligated to share my experience because of how rare this is, but also how underdiagnosed this is. There are way more people with ankylosing spondylitis than know that they have it. And if you have back pain, hip pain, joint pain, uveitis, all of the things that come with it, and every couple of years you're getting a different diagnosis, like, I hope a video like this finds you and helps somebody ask their doctor to help them. That's the best I can hope for. But with those diagnoses, it's manageable, and it can be manageable. So for anyone watching this long video all the way to the end, I hope it's helpful to anyone newly diagnosed or years into managing this. Thank you.